Good morning and welcome to St. Paul's United Methodist Church. Today I'm reading from the 25th chapter of Matthew's account of the Gospel. God's kingdom is like 10 young virgins who took oil lamps and went out to greet the bridegroom. 5 were silly and 5 were smart. The silly virgins took lamps but no extra oil. The smart virgins took jars of oil to feed their lamps. The bridegroom didn't show up when they expected him, and they all fell asleep. In the middle of the night, someone yelled out, "He's here! The bridegroom is here! Go out and greet him!" The 10 virgins got up and got their lamps ready. The silly virgins said to the smart ones, "Our lamps are going out. Lend us some of your oil." They answered, "There might not be enough to go around. Go buy your own." They did, but while they were out buying oil, the bridegroom arrived. When everyone who was there went to greet him had gone into the wedding feast, the door was locked. Much later, the other virgins, the silly ones, showed up and knocked on the door saying, "Master, we're here, let us in." He answered, "Do I know you? I don't think I know you." So stay alert. You have no idea when he might arrive. This morning I want to share a story called Waiting for the Ambulance. There was a accident way out in the countryside, miles from anywhere. And 2 vehicles were involved, and the scene was, well, it didn't look good. The 2 cars were crumpled and debris was scattered all over, and there were 5 people who had been there involved. And the 5, there was a young man, a nicely dressed woman, a businessman with a nice suit, and 2 elderly brothers. Well, the young man was probably in the best condition of all of them, and so he gathered his strength and set off. About 100 yards down the road, they had noticed a telephone booth. Some of you may remember what telephone booths looked like. A little while later, he came back, huffing and puffing, having exerted himself, and he said, "The ambulance driver said he would be here as soon as he could." The woman was fretting about her clothes and said, "Well, thank goodness, we are out here in the middle of nowhere. I don't think anyone would ever find us otherwise." The businessman said, "I don't think so. Are you sure he's coming?" Yes, he said he would be here. He was 31 miles out, and he would be here as soon as he could." The brothers said, "Wait a second. Exactly what did he say? We need to know his exact words." The young man thought. He said, "Stay off the road and keep alert. Don't let anyone doze off. I'm about 31 miles away. I promise I'll be there as soon as I can." Well, the one brother reached into a pocket and pulled out a calculator and said, "Okay, let's see, 31 minutes, 31 miles, how fast, how far? Okay, he'll be here in 34 minutes and 24 seconds. The other brother said, "Look it. My calculator says he'll be here in 33 minutes and 48 seconds. You're not taking into account the time it took the young man to get to the phone booth and back." "I forgot nothing," his brother said. Gentlemen, the young man said, "you're missing the point. He didn't say when he would get here. He just said he would get here." The woman said, I hope he doesn't get here too soon, because I have got to fix this dress. I can't have anyone pick me up looking like this. The businessman started getting kind of anxious and frustrated, looking around, and said, that's it. I'm done waiting. I'm going to save myself. And he gathers his strength up and he staggers off into the darkness. The young man said, wait, he's coming. And the businessman said, young man, you're fooling yourself if you think anyone's going to help you but you. The young man said, but you're going the wrong way. The businessman said, there's bound to be a town in any direction. And he sets off. The two brothers in all this time had been arguing with each other, and the one brother said, that's it. He said, stay off the road. He's not coming on the road. He'll be out in the field or behind some bushes or, in the forest. We've got to get off the road. The other brother said, no. He should be coming in the hills. Don't you remember? Look unto the hills, from where comes my help? And they go off off the road. And the young man said, but he said to stay here. Young man, we have read the driver's manual. We know what the ambulances are capable of. We're going to go wait for him where he said, off the road. Well, hours went by, and the young man called out to the woman, are you still there? Yes, I'm still here. I'm working on this dress. Don't bother me. I've got so much to do before he gets here. The young man was getting cold and shivering a little bit, and he started to get tired. And he said, no. He said to stay alert. And then he noticed the sky on the far horizon getting a little pinkish. And he heard the wail of an ambulance siren. And he said, he's coming. And the woman said, he can't come now. I'm not ready. Don't let him find me. And she went farther into the darkness. The ambulance pulls up and the driver gets out and he looks around and says, where is everyone? The young man said, some couldn't wait. Some were too busy. Some were not content for what you might be able to do for them. What? All right. And the driver helps the young man into the ambulance, and he's, I'm safe. I'm going to be okay. And he looks around a little bit, and he notices this is kind of a small ambulance. And he calls out to the driver, say, this is kind of small. What if everybody had been here? You wouldn't be able to get very many people in here. True, said the driver. But there weren't a lot of people left waiting for me, were there? This story and the lesson from Matthew tells us about the importance not just of waiting for God, not just of being prepared, but why? Why are we waiting? And what are we to be doing in the meantime? I have a button in my collection that says, Jesus is coming, look busy. And sometimes we confuse busyness with being prepared or with activity. Sometimes we think that we know what God wants of us, and so we're going to go ahead and do it. and God can catch up whenever God gets around to it. Sometimes we start to get tired of the waiting. We've been doing this for, the Christian faith has been around for 1900 and some years, 1970 years. And ever since Jesus ascended, Christians have been debating this idea of when he's coming back. What did he mean when he said, "I will come again"? Some have determined that he didn't really mean return as much as he meant something else. And so we Christians have been arguing about the mechanics of the second coming or the return of the Messiah, forgetting what we were told to do while we wait. During this time of pandemic, we can look at the world and say, gosh, if we could just get back to normal, people would come back to church. If we could just do X, Y, or Z, we would get back to normal, get back to the way things used to be. Both in the gospel account and in the story, we hear about people who were given instructions and yet decided that those instructions were incomplete. And so, playing by their own rules, they took their chances, and we see how it works out. In Matthew's account, 5 of the bridesmaids or the virgins, as some translations say, 5 were ready, 5 were not. Of the 5 people in this story that I shared about the ambulance, only 1 was ready, had put himself in the place of expectation, of anticipation. Here we are in this wonderful opportunity of having time to reflect, having time to study, having time to reconnect with our neighbors, with our families, and even with ourselves. We're given this time, a time set aside where we can prepare ourselves. We don't know when Jesus is coming. We don't know what exactly that entails. But we know that he said, wherever 2 or 3 were gathered, he would be there in their midst. So if Jesus is in our midst now, we don't need to wait for someday. If Jesus meant what he said, if everything else he said we hold to be true, then we can hold on to this until such time as we experience in another life what he meant. Until such time, we have this life to live. We have this time to experience the presence of God at work. So, be ready. Prepare yourself. But not to prepare yourself and to be so wrapped up in how, but commit yourself to the why. What would be different How will you live your life in the presence of God now, so that when the time comes, you won't be caught off guard or caught out of place? May this day be a blessing to you, and may you bless others in return. Amen.